All right. All right, so we're doing the Cloudflare um, configuration file. So what I described last time is we have like an initial state which describes a like a big config, or this just sorry, not a big config. The initial state, which just describes a state. What is the config? Well, we might have like A, B, B, C, D, or who knows? We could have like record one, record two, record three, and we could have like um I don't fucking know, like what else? What else can we have? Like a forward, forward one, forward two. I think we should just say A B C D whatever. And we have the new state, which okay. Another thing to note is that this is Cloudflare, and this is like local. And we cannot re-replicate like IDs because Cloudflare's IDs are like some proprietary format that we don't really understand. So, like, how do we identify these things when we are recreating the state, right? So, maybe we have to rethink, like, okay, well, A, B, C, C, D, like, what could these things be? Well, let's just assume for a second that we do know what they are. So if we do, like, okay, I can recreate an A. So it's like we're going to recreate an A. We're going to recreate a B. In fact, we might have two Bs. We're not going to have a C, and we're going to have an F or something. And like what describes the difference between these states. So the difference between these states is just S1 minus S0, right? So we have like A, B, like we have A, we have 1B, we have B minus, we have 2B minus B. Like in other words, it's just really B plus B minus B. We have this also this A is minus A, so this becomes 0. We have a C. We have I'm sorry, we don't have a C. We have a negative C. We have a negative C. I think actually a better way is to just write this out explicitly what it means. And we're not going to do the space thing. We're just going to do like this. Like S is A, B, C. We have S1. This is also Cloudflare. This is local. We know how to recreate these things, so we can like say, okay, we can create an A. We can create a C. Okay, well S1 minus S is literally just going to be A minus A um, minus B um, plus C minus C. In other words, the only thing that happens is that, well, this resolves to 0, this resolves to 0. This, on the other hand, is not really, this, like, we subtract a B, which corresponds to delete, right? This is delete B. So, um, Okay, well, how do we know what A, B, C, etc. is? Well, we have like multiple records and shit. Like we have, for example, we have like a record here. I'm sorry, not record. We have zones. Like we have a zone here. We have a zone here, and these contain like a list. These contain attributes. Attributes. Like this contains like an R1, for example. It contains like an R1 and R2. This one also might contain an R1 and an R2. Okay, well, look, like R1 is the same as R1 here, so we can't, like, how do we decode, how can we encode R1 being different than R1 here? Well, we could say maybe this is like Z1 R1, this is Z2 R2, this is Z1 R2, and this is Z2 R2, right? We could say something like that. In which case now, these things can not be grouped together. They are separate things. So, like now they're separate. These are unique. If the idea is that everything is separated by terms, you just add all these things up, right? Well, these are now unique. So, they're not unique. They are separate. They're now separate. So, we need to include the like whatever we need to include whatever identifies Z1 and whatever identifies Z2, which each zone um, has a unique name. So we can just say, hey, we're going to take the zone's name and we're just going to like append it. We're going to do it naively. It doesn't really matter as long as it's unique, right? So we're just doing zone name plus ID and describes a location. And ID, we haven't actually defined this yet. So this was what I was about to talk about. So what is ID? Like what is R1? What is R1, right? So like zone, right? Zone is just well, this is just the zone name, right? This is zone 1 name. This is just zone 2 name. Right? Okay, but how about what about like okay, well this is we know that this expands out these expand out to the zone name. Okay, but what about like R1 and R2? What does these expand out to? And I've I think I've resolved that that everything is unique within each space. So whether we're talking about a zone, right? Whether we're talking about the descendants of a zone, right? A zone has descendants. Like let's just say like we have a zone, and the zone has descendants. Or we're talking about a rule, and the rule has descendants. Or we're talking about a, fucking. Let's just say this. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. We're talking about a rule. We're talking about a zone. We're talking about a. Let's just take a look. Like, we have records. We have rules. We have page rules. Right? And, well, if you see here, they are unique, right? We're never going to have something like this. We're never going to have something like this because each child is certain to be unique. So given that assumption, actually, is my microphone okay? Given that assumption, um, well, what does that mean? If they're unique, then okay, well, what are like descriptions of what's unique in our, like what descriptions make our records unique? Well, if we just take a look at like what describes a unique, let's just take a look. What describes our records to be unique? Well, if you notice, okay, what if we just use the types? Nope, because there are some duplicate types here. Okay, what if we use the name? Nope, because there are some duplicate names. Okay, what about the content? The proxy says no, the TTL, no. Okay, well, how about everything as a whole? Like, yeah, that's a pretty good, assumption, is we just say, okay, you can't have an exactly, you can't have an exact duplicate. You can't have a duplicate of an existing record within the same space, within the same fucking, what do you call this, zone. And okay, well, why don't you just use the ID? Because the IDs are unique. Well, as we said before, that is proprietary, closed, something we don't understand, right? So what do we understand? Well, we understand that the description of all these things together is a unique thing. Whether we're talking about a record, or we're talking about a page rule, or a rule, or whatever it is. So that means that we just define, instead of saying ID, this stuff feels so much like Lua now. It's funny. It feels like I'm running Lua. Well, we can't say ID. We just say all attributes, like all, that's it, like all attributes together. Like that's it. And we could just, honestly, we could just call this like a location. First of all, okay, yeah. So let's see what we can work with here. So okay, let's work with that. So we have zone name plus ID. Okay, well, in the case of a setting, that's just the same as the zone name plus the value. And value is not guaranteed to be a string, so we have to put it as a string. Yeah. So that's it. Like that's it. So now we have a way of uniquely identifying um, locations, and we're just gonna apply. So we're just gonna apply this to um, each of our things. So yeah. So let's see what we got. So value. Okay. So location is good for that. Okay. So when I say location, I'm describing what is this term? This term represents literally this zone name appending. It just means this unique given these two things. We're generating a unique. And yeah, I mean, so okay, and then like same thing here, right? We don't have ID, like we don't have ID, so we just have to substitute ID for something that is unique, that uniquely describes a object. So what uniquely describes this record? Well, it is the name plus the type plus the content. And I hate that Python uses addition, but that's how we concatenate strings. We can plus content plus proxy which has to be a string because we have to cast it to a string because it's a Boolean, plus the TTL, which is a string as well, plus the string priority, and like that's it, and then yeah, like that's it, and then okay, what about down here at okay, we don't have a descriptor for ID, so we, like before, we say, okay, what describes, what is the closest description? Well, target, we have a target, we have enabled. These are the two attributes, the defining attributes of a rule. So we just take those defining attributes and we include them in our hash thing. Okay, next. We have ID. Okay, same thing here. It's like we have source target. Okay, so we just say plus source plus target. Okay, now next problem is, all right, so we now, this model now represents, this now accurately represents our, what we are doing. This represents reality now. So, okay, how do we, okay, like how do we delete things? How do we delete things which are unique? I'm sorry, not unique, which are not unique. Okay, so like, what if we have an extraneous, how do we, okay, we have like extraneous things. Okay, so here's another thing. Here's another thing I forgot to mention, is we're not doing the DS model anymore, where we can just say DS and subtract. We're not actually doing that model anymore. Instead, we're doing this. So let me show you real quick. So we're doing now, how do we describe this? Well, we have some initial state that is taken from Cloudflare, which is like, right, which is literally like A plus B plus C and then we have our new state, which describes the initial state plus some changes, right? Which is really just what is that? Well, the changes, isn't that just like DS? I actually don't know if we can describe it this way because this is, well, yeah, let's just say we have like DS. I don't actually know if this is like mathematically valid because it's like an unknown. We have two unknowns which are the same row. But no, it's I think it's valid. The difference in S, and we know the difference in S because because we're articulating it. But we don't have to call it DS actually, because we're not going to call it DS. We're just going to call it change. So like big C. We're going to call it actually. Just going to call it delta. Like we're just going to call it delta. Right, and delta describes the whatever arbitrary modifications we make, right? Because okay, here's why. We start with this state and we start doing things to it, right? In other words, we start with this state and then we arbitrarily apply changes to it. And we know that we can describe these changes as whatever we want. We could say we could just say like, okay, we're gonna remove A. We're going to add a B, another B. We're going to add an F. And we're not doing anything with C. And we will need to describe something else. So, okay. Okay, well, what is the result of S1? Well, S1 is going to be A minus A plus B plus B plus B plus F plus C. But here's the thing, right? Is we have this idea of like extraneous configuration that was not like things that were untouched by the config file, because the assumption is that the config file is always going to it's always going to create all the information from the ground up. So basically, here's the like let's take a look at C specifically, not C. Yeah, let's take a look at C specifically, because this is the term. Like, okay, what's so special about C? Well, this term exists in S, but does not exist in the delta. There was no C in here. And that means it's extraneous because our config file isn't developed, like isn't creating this. Which really just means that like I don't know, what does that mean? Like we don't want this. We don't want C. So it's not as simple as just it's not as simple as saying it's not as simple as just saying we create and then we delete, and we create and we create and create and create. It describes something different. So like what does this mean? What does this mean? Okay, well maybe if it's more like described as a space like we did before, where we said, okay, well, S is going to be this idea, is going to be like this set containing like an A and a B and a C, and S1 is going to describe, or we're just going to say like delta is going to describe, this describes changes we made? No. This describes what does this describe? Well, you know what, maybe this does describe changes actually. How about, I think, you know what? This is actually just a config file. Right, so delta describes the config file. I don't know if you call it that. Let's just call it, God damn it, I don't know what to call it. Z. Z describes our config file, which is going to is it going to create all these things, or am Am I tripping balls right now? I think this actually just creates everything from scratch. In which case, it actually just describes the desired state. So it describes the desired state. Right? So we have a desired state which has like A, B, C. Or no, it's not going to have a C, it's just going to have an F. A, B, F. Alright, well, how do we get from S to S1? Well, okay, how do we get from S to the desired state? I don't know if, actually, you know what? This is literally just S1. I'm sorry, I'm so fucking stupid right now. This is going to be A, B, F. Why am I back down this fucking tangent again? Why can I not figure this out? Isn't this just going to be... is this literally just going to be S1 minus S? This is going to give us A minus A plus B minus B plus F minus C. Okay, you know what? So, yeah, no, extraneous things are just automatically deleted because we just never do anything with them. And, okay. And but the thing is, like, the way that I'm encoding this information right now is we have a list of uniques. Yeah, we just have a list of uniques. So yeah, like for example, if we created multiple B's here, then like how do we like handle that? Maybe we don't. You know what? Maybe we actually are never going to have that case. Or maybe we're never going to have the case where we create multiple B's. Which means like what that really means is what does that mean? I think this what we're doing here, where we hash a list of the items in the location, is actually overdefined. Like we're overdefining this thing, and if this is truly the model, which I don't see why we can't represent it this way, then okay, well, let's just say like let's just say like okay, what does this mean such that we can get the deletions to be on the left side first? Or like what does this mean such that we can get state to be on the left side? Okay, well, let's say this is S plus S1. Okay, now what does this mean expanded out? Right? This means this, which really just means this really just means this. I'm sorry, this literally just means this up here, right? And we care. Okay, so here's the thing: we care about there is an order because like we can relate this like programmatically. Like okay, we say okay, first of all, we have the subtract, and then we have we have the addition, and then we have the subtraction, then we have the addition, and then we have a creation of an F, and then we have a subtraction of a C. Now, what does this mean for us? Well, the first thing to happen is we pull the state. We pull the state from the server. And then we run the script. We run the configuration. Right, so this describes CF. Right, this is Cloudflare. Right, this is Cloudflare. This is local. And what we need to do is say, okay, well, let's separate this term one more time. Let's separate the negatives into their own thing. Right, so we're, okay, so what does this describe? So we have, well, we have an A, we have a B, we have a C, and we have a, we have a B, we have an F, and we say, okay, well, we're running through this step by step, and we put these items in a scene table or something, right? So we have this big scene list, which just contains, right? It just contains all these things incrementally, not incrementally. As we're moving through all these items, we're continually adding these. We're just adding these to this list, and we do this check every time. So we say, okay, we have A. Okay, next thing we put B in here. Okay, B. Okay, next thing we put C in here. All right, C. Oh, and okay, you know what it is? It's okay, do we have A? Do we have A in here? No, we don't. We're just putting in there. Is B in there? No, we don't. So we're just putting in there. Is C in there? No, we don't. So we're just putting in there. Is A in there? Yes, it is. In which case, we need to remove it. Right? We need to remove it. And that's supported by the way that we're doing this. Because we described here, well, the difference between these two states is just the subtraction between them. Okay, well, the subtraction, the difference can be represented as separating the terms. Okay, well, this truly is the way that we move through this data, is subtraction. We go through the subtraction elements, the negative elements, and then we go through the positive elements. And this is already the way that it works, right? This is how, this is a valid model to represent. Okay. So, okay, now we do this check. Is A in there? Yeah, there is an A in there. So we're going to take that existing A and we're going to call the delete. And then, there's a B in there. Okay, we're going to take that existing B and call the delete. And then, obviously, we're going to create the new ones. Okay. And then, how about the F? No, there's no F in there. So we're left off with oh yeah, no, but the F gets put in here. So we've seen the F. So the F gets put in here. Then, okay, so we put an F in here. Now, oh my God, how do we do this now? We create an F. How do we know how do we find the extraneous things? Do we care about scene or do we care about we don't care about seen, we care about extraneous. And this actually doesn't give us any information. This doesn't seem to give us much information about extraneous variables. Because, like, I know just by looking at this, like, C is extraneous, right? Why is it extraneous? Because it exists in S, but not S1. So like, S not S1 is literally just C, right? And then S1, and then like S1 not S is just F. Whoops. This is just F. Okay. How do we get S1 not S? How do we get S1 not S? Because obviously putting it into a scene thing doesn't really give us much information. And here's the problem, right? Is we don't actually know. We don't really know S1 and we don't know S. It's more. See that the problem is that it's not like we know S and S1. It's more like S mutates over time until it becomes S1, which means that these aren't really separate things. Like these aren't separate, which is why I need a more or less a stateless way. I mean, I don't really need. I wanted to do like a stateless way where I can just go through this left to right and figure it out, but I don't think it's possible to do it that way, given that we just tried it here. So it's not possible that you just have a scene table and just check it that way. It's not possible to do that way. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, at least we can do it for deleting extraneous. That's basically the same as okay, here's what we gotta do. We just need okay. We need a differentiation between Cloudflare and local. Okay, no, you know what? So that actually does mean that we have I think we actually do have some separation between these two things, which means that we actually can get S1 not S and we can get S not S1. So yeah, we can. Okay. Which means that this is gonna work fine. So this scene shit, we don't need to care about it. We don't need to care about this. This is just gonna be in post. So we do this operation, and then after we do that operation, then we can right after we do this operation, then we can do separately this stuff. Right? So first we do this shit. Second, we do this shit. Right? And okay, another thing is instead of S and S1, I just want to call it. I think we should just call these CF. Right, this is CF, and this is local. This is getting nasty. Okay, I think like I get the idea. I don't need to write this down anymore. So here's what we do. Is we have a like Cloudflare, which is CF items. Right, I don't know, like we just say, okay, if state.get CF items, then, oh my god, what am I fucking doing? If CF items get self location, as in we get location describes our identifier, then, well, what do we do? Well, then that means we we actually don't need to do that. This is actually explicit right here. If we are taking a Cloudflare options list, then right, so if we're given a Cloudflare like options list, then we just add this to the CF items. We don't append, we just say CF items location is self. And if it's not a Cloudflare initializer, then we just put ourselves in, instead of calling this state, this should really just be called local. Right? And right, so we have this idea of local. Right, so if we're in if local CFS CFS right, so if we're given Cloudflare options, then that means this is a Cloudflare created thing. We're going to put ourselves in the list of Cloudflare items. Otherwise, we're putting ourselves in the location of local items. And we don't need this anymore. Okay, and then we just do this for every single one, essentially. And yeah. And then we got one more up here, I think. Right, so, okay. Now, when we're pushing the deltas, right? When we're pushing the deltas, we could call this push deltas. We could just do like run deltas. Well, right. So we want to delete first, and to delete is describing, right? So things we delete are things that are in S1, sorry, things that are in local, which are, okay, things which are in Cloudflare, which are not in local, are things that we delete. In other words, we go through each of the local items and check if it's in the Cloudflare thing. If it's not in the Cloudflare, then we delete it. Wait, if it's not in the Cloudflare. No. We go through the Cloudflare, we check if the item is not in the local. In which case, if it's not in the local, then we delete it, because that means it's extraneous to the local configuration. So we go through, right, and we want to delete before we create. So we want to run this one first. So we go through the Cloudflare items, and we just say like item, I don't know, item, cf items by, okay. We just say this, if not, right, because this describes the identifier, or this describes the location, right? So if not, if we don't get the location in the local, if we don't find the item in the local, then we cf items location, we just delete it, because we're deleting an extraneous thing. And then for the case of the opposite case, where we have a CF item right, we have a CF item, a Cloudflare item. We have a local item which doesn't exist in the Cloudflare configuration, then we just push it. We want this. This is what we want, right? And in this case, we want it. So, like, I think that's it. Delete first and then add later. So, another thing to note is that, what is this location? Location. Do we need internal anymore? I don't think we even need internal anymore. Yeah, we don't need this. Let's just try this. Let's try it. Yeah, we just don't need that. We don't need internal, we just need the location. Location. I don't know if I like this actually. We should just, I want to call this hash. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter that much. We'll just do that. Location. Internal. Right. This, we don't need that. This, we don't need it. Okay. Let's see what's happening. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like I think that's it, to be honest. I don't think it's that complicated. And who knows? We'll see what happens. Are we gonna actually get deltas working for fucking finally? Do email writing. Let's see. What? Oh, lol. Yeah, so we need delete down here. Okay. We don't have this one doesn't have delete. We need to delete here. Um, we need a delete where we need one here as well. Yeah. Let's try this. And then we just basically got to fill in the blanks at this point. I think it'll just work. So, um, yeah. Okay. Well, push. What is push the same as? Oh god, did we fucking not save code to make records? Oh yeah, we have that, right? We have this somewhere. Create record, delete record, and flatten record, post. Okay. Auto records. Um, um, create a DNS record. So this is all the DNS record related stuff. So we can go to make record, and we can just put this in here for now. And yeah. What about rules stuff? Okay, routes. Okay, routes. Delete routes. Page rules. Page rule. Okay, page domain. What is that? Okay, making page rules. Well, do we need push? We don't have a push in here. Oh, we do. Okay, that looks like we already have this one, right? This is, yeah. Nice. Rule ID. Yeah, so okay, so we can just take the ID from CF data. So if it does have an ID, right? right? It's going to have an ID. And we don't even need a rule. Say IDs around. Yeah. Nice. I'm tired, man. I'm so tired. Ah. I feel like it's getting slower every time I run it. If it's not in local, then we delete it. If it's not in CF items, then we push it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is return. Return something? I don't think we need to. I don't think we need to return anything. We do. We should return. Yeah, we can return something. Did that actually remove it? Check out luxury.com. Bloxray. Bloxray. Sorry, this is. What the fuck? Yeah, it looks like it did not. Oh, it did remove it. It did remove it. Yeah, it did remove it. Wow. We needed that. We need that. Oh! Wait. No, we don't need that. Because that's supposed to be in JD Skinner. So it's actually right. I wouldn't have noticed that. Like, this is why finding the extraneous, this is why the extraneous finder is so good, because it gets to the point where you have no fucking idea how to manage all this data. Should I think about managing, like, okay, is it easier for me to encapsulate this entire Cloudflare website, going through each of these fucking settings and checking, setting by setting if things are correct versus this 800 line file, which, like, everything is right in front of me. Like, this is much more elegant in my opinion. This is a much nicer way to deal with data, in my opinion, than to have this interface. Like, yeah, sure, you have an interface, but you have thousands of tabs, and it's slow as fuck, and none of it's automated, and, like, I can't make it so that, like, what if I buy a new domain and I just want to get all the settings set up immediately? It's like, I'm not going to hand do that shit. So this is actually much more worth my time to make this. So, okay, what else did it do? Remove email rule from bestratereview.com, Jeff Jig. It did something to best rate review. Oh no, it did something to best rate review, guys. It did something. did he say? Oh, yeah, it's not going to be able to get rid of that. Um, yeah, like this is almost working though. This is almost working, so good. Um, we don't have this. URL 0 is supposed to be source. This is supposed to be target. Alright, let's try that. I gotta shit. Alright. Nice. No errors. Is it actually creating these rules? Let me try this right. It doesn't look like it is because let's see. Is SD8? Yeah, it's making all the rules. I'm a little bit skeptical because I don't know why it's removing and creating rules. But I think we'll figure it out. Oh, you know why? Probably because we're not hashing the rule correctly, maybe. Target enabled. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Oh, oh, sorry. No, this is page rule. Page rule, name source target. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, what should happen when how do we remove an email rule? So we have, let's check out documentation. We have rule. Oh yeah, because we have indeed. Why would it remove that? Oh. Hmm. No, yeah, I mean, we should fix this. Oh no. Anyways, I think this is fine. Um, so that works. Um, this doesn't. I mean that. Yeah, that's it. Remove this. Yeah, push. Okay, pushing a record. Well, that's easy. We just do a post request. And Yeah, and then um, um, yeah. Mm. Oh, it's fucking it's creating them again. What the fuck is happening? Why is it? Why did it do that? Hmm. Well, it recreated the record. Why did it delete all of them initially and then recreate them? I'm so confused why that happened. The record's back. I have no idea why that happened. Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I don't really know why that happened. I wonder if it's going to recognize. All right, and then nice. What? I couldn't make it.